Welcome back to the 10 Pin Ben YouTube channel. Today, I am joined by Andrew Pfeffer, bowling with a Pfeff, and today we're going to predict the 2025 PBA Elite League Battle of the Brands for 2025. This video is sponsored by ADR Wear, the best place to get your attire to look good on and off the lanes. Go down in the description below, check out the website, and thank you ADR for sponsoring the video. But yeah, without further ado, let's get into this video. It's a good one. Now, first of all, welcome to the channel, Andrew.
Thank you. I hope that you're not, counting on me to correctly predict winners. As you found the last time we talked, I could not predict the winner of a 5-person stepladder, let alone the Battle of the Brands, but we'll give it our best shot.
Yeah, and quite frankly, this is the most prepared I've ever been for a video. I've probably got more paper here than I've ever done homework in my life. So I'm pretty sure we are equipped, or at least I'm equipped here. And we've done a lot of research. So yeah, we're going to jump straight in. And the draft was wrapped up yesterday. So we're going to do our best today to jump in, break it all down. We're going to analyze some of the picks, unpack the teams that we've got, see what strategies they might be looking at. And of course, we're going to share our predictions of where we think each person's going to finish and what we're going to look at. Are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's do it.
We'll kick it off by explaining how the draft actually worked, because it was a tough one to get my head around, but I think I've got my head around it. So each singles event in the PBA Tour season, the National Tour, each brand can pick 5 players to represent their team, and they're going to earn points. These are the same points that will be earned for their singles PBA playoff rankings. So however that ranking system works, it's the same, but they have to pick their 5 players out of their roster of between, I believe it's 6 and 15 is the roster size. Mainly the sort of middle number that I've seen a lot of people go with is 8, but there's a couple with like 10 and a bit more. But obviously trades, they're allowed. How that works with brands, I don't quite know, but it's something that I suppose will work out over the season. Now, it's a weighted point system. There's standard point events, double point events, and triple point events. Now, this is important to consider because your standard point events are things like the World Series of Bowling, like the animal patterns at the World Series of Bowling. Double point events are things like the PBA Delaware Classic and the Tournament of Champions. And your triple point events are things like majors, such as the US Open and the Players' Championship. And obviously, it's how it says, your standard point events, you get your standard points, double points, whatever points you would get normally, they're doubled and then tripled. So that's how it works. There is 8 teams, and I think there's 8 teams.
You're right on that.
I think I'm right on that. So obviously,
Hammer, Ebonite, Roto, 900 Global, Storm, Motive. I'm missing one. Oh, DV8. Yep.
Yeah, there's definitely 8. There's definitely 8 here. So the finals format, obviously, you're going to do your qualifying throughout the season, and then they'll get into the Baker finals on TV. Now, the seeds 4 through 8 will face off in a single elimination match with the winner advance. The winner of the 4 to 8 sort of face off will then end up in a step ladder against the top 3 seeds. Your standard step ladder, the stuff you've seen before. Now, where it gets interesting is on the TV, each team must use exclusively their brand's balls. So there's a couple people who might not be sponsored by, say, Roto-Grip exactly, but because they're in the Storm family or because they're in the brands of Brunswick family, they've still been picked to play for one of those companies. Now, however, say if you're on Brunswick staff, and obviously now you can't, well, say you were throwing Black Hammer the whole time or something along those lines, or the IQ Ruby, because you were on Storm. If you're with Roto-Grip, you can't do that. You've got to throw specifically that brand of ball. So every ball that's going to be thrown in the final is going to be exclusive to the brand that player is representing. So if you throw Roto-Grip, you've got to throw Roto-Grip, etc. Now, because every brand doesn't make Urethrane's banned on the TV finals, which this will make it interesting. However, apparently it's still allowed to be used for spares, which will be interesting because the new Storm level, that ball's just come out a couple of weeks ago, and I'm interested to see where that one shapes up and if that might be a common ball to be thrown by the Storm lot. And of course, the winning team takes home $100,000. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. And I know, especially for my side at the start of the season, I looked at it and it was a bit confusing because they'd scrapped off the PBA League and they'd got like the Las Vegas High Rollers and stuff. They've all disappeared, and then it became the brands, and it was it was like, oh well, is this going to be good? Is it going to be bad? But this is a lot harder to predict than I thought it was going to be. I don't know about you, Andrew, but I had a tough time, and I think anyone can beat anybody.
Yeah, and a couple points that that are interesting to me as you went through all of that. First of all, the 5 players who get picked by each brand for each event. It'll be interesting to see who ends up on those 5 at the start of the season, how it changes through the events. What's interesting to me is the Tournament of Champions isn't a triple point event. So that's kind of different. I would think that that's kind of, in some of our minds, the king of them all. But yet it only counts for double points. On the urethane aspect, that'll be interesting. You'll see presumably some guys who may throw urethane a majority of the time, having to switch to something reactive. And the other question I have is, what's to stop a brand from at some point in the season thinking, well, player A likes the, we'll say level, because you said level, but he bowls for 900 global or Roto-Grip. What's to stop Storm from using those same components in a new ball wrapped in labels from Roto-Grip or 900 global? But other than that, yeah, it's something different. And I think you mentioned about how the league is exciting, but I found it kind of hard to follow over the course of last season. And I hope that now, involving these brands, not only do you get something different, but you get new possibilities for marketing of this thing. You get other entities posting about it, keeping people updated on the standings and knowing where things stand. I think that's a big part of what could make or break this type of format.
Yeah, 100%. And I think that where last season I think it was only the kind of the last tour stop, or there was only a couple stops where the league actually was played, where now it's every week. Mm-hmm. And when you look at a lot of the players last season who played, they might not have played the whole tour, they might not have been full time on the tour, but they were playing their events. Where this year you have to pick 5 every single week. Yeah. And I know a couple teams in this. When I was watching the draft yesterday, there's some older guys in here who might not be bowling full time.
So they're more experienced.
Yeah. more experienced guys who are in there.
Yeah.
But they're not necessarily bowling every week. Mm. And it's really, really interesting for me to see how every team's taking a different approach, and how, it's just looking at the paper in front of me. Every single team on here, they have capability of winning. They all do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And some of the teams, especially close to the top, are just stacked with absolute talent machines. Mm-hmm. So I think it's going to be interesting. And, it's because it's week on week, it's, I don't know if you played sort of Fantasy Premier League, the soccer version. I'm sure American football's got their version where, you rack up points every week. And this is going to be really interesting to follow along with, because, sure, it's great having your EJs and it's great having, your Jason Mamonics who are going to rack up loads and loads of points every week.
You would think.
you would think. But I think where a lot of teams are going to be make and break is that strength and depth that they've got, and the versatility of their players. Because it's all well and good having that 1 or 2 players that are gonna smash points every week and you can rely on them. But if you don't have your other 3 or 4 guys who can consistently finish close to the top and rack them points in, that's going to make a huge difference. So I think that the team managers of these brands, they must have had a hard time picking. And yeah, some of these choices you might look at face value and go, well, yeah, but he's not going to get close to winning a major, or he's not going to get close to competing against him. But if you look where they finished, they might be necessarily being overlooked as a winner, but they're going to get you a lot of points.
Yeah. And that's the thing that the casual fan doesn't often understand, because we're often kind of hyper focused on those guys that make TV shows and are in the spotlight, especially multiple times a year. But when you have consistent cashers throughout these rosters, that can make a big difference. The other thing I think about is, my son plays basketball, and it's a 2-team structure at his middle school, and he's on the B team. But they end up playing a lot of smaller schools that only have one team. And those schools have great teams that we often struggle to compete against. So you think about the situation in this league with Motive having the one team, Storm having 3, and Brunswick having more. But as you look up and down the rosters, boy, you just really understand how much premier talent there is across the PBA Tour. It's impressive.
Yeah, and I think we should just jump right in and into the predictions. So at number 8, who have you got at number 8, Andrew?
Oh boy. This is going to be, this is going to be tough. I just, how you want everybody to win. Everybody's got a great chance to win. And I'm kind of rambling here so I can, give myself a little more time to cram. I'm going to say Ebonite. Ebonite is my number 18.
How come?
No offense to, to the Ebonite folks out there. Like I said, the teams are great all the way across. I think there's some unknowns here. You kind of wonder where guys like Christian Azcona, who we haven't seen in those higher finishes, end up doing this season. Kim Balabi is, I guess, a player that not known by a lot of casual fans. And the big X factor here is Jacob Buttriff. We didn't see him, much last season, and you wonder how he's going to jump back into this thing.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. It was between 2 teams, but Ebonite is my 8 pick as well. Jake Peters and Jacob Buttriff, they're great players. Tommy Jones, he'll level the field, but sure, you've got them top players at the top, but then if you look at a prediction, you look at your betting odds, I just don't think you see any of those guys straight at the top every week. And I wouldn't say they're a lesser brand, but when you compare to the firepower of like Storm, Motive, and Brunswick, I don't see them having the firepower to be consistently competing with the likes of Storm and Motive. But like I said, they could make an upset. You never know, and they might be a bit of a quiet contender where some of them top players, Tommy Jones, Jacob Buttriff, they might carry you through the events. I mean, I watched Kim Bolaby yesterday at AIK on YouTube. He's a lefty. He looks good, but ultimately it just comes down to, I just think there's too much talent at the top, and it's going to be, I think the bottom like 3, 4, and 5, like that bottom pack, that could be, anyone could finish 8th, anyone could finish 4th. Like it's so close. Yeah. But going into 7th, I've got DV8, and it's maybe a bit controversial. I think they're a real dark horse, and I might be saying, as much as I wanted to put them higher, I can see them even finishing 4th or 3rd. I can really see them pushing for it, but they're a young team, and I think their team manager was talking about it yesterday on the PBA draft of, their roster pick is very conducive of where they're trying to go as a brand. Young, exciting 2-handers. They've only got one-hander on there. Ryan Simonelli's their only one-hander. They've got someone pretty experienced in the shape of Matt Ogle to lead the line and captain their team. I think he's really adaptable, and he'll push the rest of them. But they've got some really good chemistry. I think, Cameron Crowe and Kevin Williams specifically, I've heard they're very they're very youthful. The whole team is, but they have a really good chemistry. And, when it comes to a team game, chemistry is everything. Yeah. So I really do think they can make an upset. There's a lot of young guys on there. A lot of people that I don't necessarily know a lot about, Hayden Stipich and Bailey Maverick. I can't say I know a whole lot about them, But hey, I think if we're going for a dark horse, it's definitely for me gotta be DVA, because I think that this young talent, but it's really, really good talent, and they could definitely upset a few people.
Yeah. And if correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Stipich was one of the ones who got through the tour trials to get an exemption for this.
Yeah, I believe he was first in team trials.
Yeah. My number 7 is going to be different than yours. My number 7 is going to be Brunswick. And it's not, necessarily because of the experience level. You've got guys like Jason Sterner, Don Barrett, Packy Hanrahan, of course, the multiple time winners. But there are a lot of lefties on this team. I feel like they're almost lefty dependent in some ways, and that worries me, especially when you get to the finals of this thing, where you're not able to rely on urethane. You have to stick within your own labels bowling balls, and I wonder if they can compete with some of these higher powered teams. So that's why I'm going with Brunswick. Like I said, you've got a lot of proven talent here. Jason Sterner, Packy Hanrahan, Don Barrett, the Triple Crown winner. Nate Stubler's a great competitor. And of course, the legend, Parker Bone III, who can always turn it on at a moment's notice. Andrew Hall, one of the other qualifiers from the tour trials this past year, and Gary Faulkner Jr., who is kind of a new name to some of the casual fans on the tour. But I'm picking them for 7.
Got you. So who you got at number 6?
Number 6, I'm going to go DV8. A lot of the reasons you put forth were very valid reasons. But I feel like Ogle is a guy who can strike with anybody. Nate Purchase, of course, his trajectory is going up by the day, as you saw over the past couple months. Cam Crow is a great one to get in there. He's young, he's talented, he's won a lot of stuff across the Midwest, and Simonelli has been proven in this type of format. So I'm going to go DV8 for number 6.
So my number 6, I've actually just changed it. Looking at the roster, like this is how close it is. I was looking at this team, and I had them in 5th originally, but yeah, I'm gonna go with Brunswick at number 6. And the only reason I'm saying this is because Don Barrett, great player.
Mm-hmm.
Packy Hanrahan, great player. Parker Bone, legend of the game. And this could go one of two ways. And don't get me wrong, the leadership of Don Barrett and Parker Bone, that they're both veterans of the game. They've got great stability that they'll bring to the team. And they've got a lot of young, exuberant players like Nate Stubler, on that team. Andrew Hall, someone you've heard a lot about at the regional level, who's kind of trying to make that step up and push towards the top of the national level. But I question whether the likes of Parker Bone are going to be able to compete with, your top level players. And that's not a sort of a fault on his talent, because by all means, he's one of the most talented and one of the best bowlers in the world, and probably all time. But, just two-hander wise, I mean, they've got maybe one two-hander on Brunswick. I mean, I could be wrong, and there's a couple of guys on there that I'm not a whole lot sure about, but I can only see one two-hander, and I think that the way the sport's going, the two-handed dominant teams, I think, are going to do a lot better than you'd expect.
I think they've got 2. I think it's Packy and Tim Foy Jr., I believe.
Tim Foy. Okay. Yeah. But, I'm not sure whether... I think bowling now has become a lot more of a power game and a rev game. And when you've got someone like Parker Bone, for the culture and the mentality of the team, he's going to be absolutely... he's going to be catalytic for it. He will be. But I look at it and I go, I don't know if in a field where it's dominated now by two-handed players with massive rev rates, massive power, I'm not sure they will compete. And, like I said, both of us could be wrong, and this could be completely flipped on its head. This is the sort of the special thing about this league, and I think Tom Clark's done a brilliant job of doing this league. Now we've kind of looked into it, and anyone can finish anywhere, but I'm going with number 6 for Brunswick.
Okay. All right.
And then in number 5, I've got Hammer. And I've literally just swapped these about. Hammer was originally 6th, but looking at it here, Marshall Kent, he's got a lot of power. He's got a lot of rev rate, and Bill O'Neill, he's known for being calm, having a strategic, structured approach, and being able to level the storm. And I think the best teams and the teams that are going to do the best here are going to have a good balance of experience and calmness and exuberance. Because I mean, we all know the winning teams are louder teams, and the teams that make noise and the teams that work well together, they're going to push each other. They're going to want to be better. They're going to pick each other up. And I think if there's teams that are loud and exuberant and, they're going to celebrate, they're going to push together, they're going to push each other, I think they're going to do really, really well. And, this team is one of those that there's a lot of leadership and there's a lot of character, but are they going to be as exuberant? Are they going to be, like a Kyle Troop where, they're going to put on a show? I don't think so. And yeah, I think it makes a big difference. And, I'm looking for my picks more of a off the lane stuff, because here I look at every single one of these teams and go, these could all win.
Yeah.
Like if you're just going off bowling. And I think that we need to look at a lot more of these off the lane factors and the personalities of who they picked and how they're going to gel. And I think that, Bill O'Neill, Marshall Kent, they're going to, Tom Doherty as well, they're going to do really good to keep the team grounded and level and sort of weather the storm. And then they've got some really exciting players. I mean, Zach Wilkins had a great season. Bug Cruel especially had a brilliant breakout season. He came from fighting PTQs to just taking over. And so that I think they're going to be a really exciting team. And I think they could even be higher than 5th.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And you're going to think I'm nuts with my number 5 pick, but I'm going with Storm. I think Storm is going to finish number 5. Like you said, Kyle Troop is fantastic. He's got the personality. He's got the championship pedigree in the PBA League, winning all those times with Portland. But it looks great on paper for Storm. It really does. But I have to guard against, because there are going to be teams that finish higher than you think, and there are going to be some teams that finish lower than you think. And the thing that just sticks out in my head is at the top is Jason Belmonte. Great player, all-timer, right? Future Hall of Famer, one of the faces of this sport. But what has he won in the PBA Elite League? There's that, and that sticks out to me. There are some guys in here who have had a lot of success on tour, but have they lately? Where have you seen, Kyle Sherman this past season, Frankie Lavoie, Darren Tang, Thomas Larson? And I know Thomas Larson had, time off for a very good reason. But it just makes me a little uneasy to pick Storm any higher than number 5. Like I said, you might think I'm nuts, but that's okay. Got to take some risks in this thing,
Yeah. So who's your number 4?
Number 4. My number 4 is going to be Hammer. Marshall Kent has had a great season coming into this. Bill O'Neill, Zach Wilkins has had, all these guys. Bug Kroll, those top 4 are really some of the stars on this, on this 2024 swing of the PBA Tour. You wonder about some of the depth. Sean Maldonado is a great one to draw from, strikes a ton. He's had success at every level. Thomas Keiko, another one who might kind of fly under the radar, but has a lot of talent. Eric Jones, you talk about regional level. I believe he's the youngest to ever win a regional tour title. But I'm going Hammer at number 4.
Okay, so now this is where it gets interesting, because the top 4 I really can't, and I've got it on paper here, but I don't even know if by the time I get to 1 it's going to be the same person that's on this paper, because the more I read into it, the more I question. And I think, yeah, I'm going to go with Roto-Grip at number 4. And this may be controversial, and they definitely have the potential to finish a lot higher. But I just look at, I'm going off vibes on this one and who I can see winning, and I just can't see this team winning. In all honesty, and yeah, they've got an exuberant team manager. In you know their team manager is just, I think he said it on the draft himself. I represent what the brand stands for, the exuberance, the excitement of Roto-Grip. And you know what? No, I see it. And I think they've got no better captain that suits this team. And I think if we're talking captains that suit a team, I think Anthony Simonson, you can't get much closer than suiting your brand than Anthony Simonson. He's just raw emotion. And I think that's exactly what Roto-Grip is going for. And and excuse me. So, but they've got a lot of really, really good players, but there's certain about it that I just don't see them winning. And like I said, that they said that winning isn't everything; it's the only thing, and that's what they're going to do. Is what he said on the PBA League draft.
After my own heart with Vince Lombardi there.
Yeah, and so I mean they want to win, and I think the likes of Chris Pray from this team might make me eat my words here, because he was on the Portland team for so long. The Portland Lumberjacks, he was there for a long time, and as you know, they were so successful in the PBA League. But obviously, importantly, the PBA Elite League now isn't in Portland anymore.
Right, different venue.
Now,
yeah,
we're all for home. Bowling. We talk about the sort of the home advantage, and I think especially in a team event where you have the whole center rooting for you, I think that does wonders. So yeah, Chris Prather's, he's known for winning with Portland, and at that level, and I can see it, but I just don't know if the fact that they've not got the home advantage anymore. I feel like it makes a big difference. But I hope Chris makes me eat my words, and I hope that that they finish a lot higher than this. But I don't know. There's something about them. I can't really place my finger on it, but 4th seems about right for me.
Yeah. Okay. And that's the thing. Across these rosters, there's so many guys you want to cheer for. You want everybody to win. But yeah, only one can win, and everybody's got to finish in a different position. And unfortunately, those are the breaks, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at number 3, who have you got?
Number 3, again, something that you might think is a surprise. I've got Motive. You can't argue with the fact that EJ Tackett is one of the top at least 2 or 3 in the world right now. He's had so much success in singles events. It's uncanny, and I'm saying that because I'm about to put him on my show as we tape this. But you look up and down: Matt Russo, Tom Smallwood, AJ Johnson, Sam Cooley's won a couple times now. Dick Allen always seems to be in the hunt, and he's one of those who has had success in the team format. There are a couple of really unknown variables in this. First of all, Nathan Bohr. Those who know him and have competed with him before say he's fantastic. He's part of a bowling power couple. He has the accolades. He's got a great physical game. You just wonder when he's going to break through, and that makes me a little uneasy. Santu, it took until this roster reveal thing became put out there that I even realized that Santu wasn't bowling because of an injury and was making a comeback on an injury exemption. For the casual observer, you just see show after show and tournament after tournament without his name mentioned, and you think, wow, did he not bowl so well? Did he not bowl at all? What's the deal there? And there you have it. He was hurt. So what kind of Santu do you get coming off of this, on the 2025 PBA Tour and in this specifically? So it's there are some great names here on paper for sure, but they'll be in my top 3. I just don't see them breaking through and winning this thing.
Yeah, and I'd have to agree with you, Andrew. I've got Motive at 3 as well. And like I said, I look, when I was talking about those players that you want those stars in your team, you don't get much better than EJ. He's been an absolute machine and an absolute force to be reckoned with on the tour the past year or two. And I think he's going to continue doing exactly that. But when I look down at the team, you've got the likes of Sean Levery Spa, and they said on the draft, he's really underrated and he's a name that kind of goes under the radar a lot. And I agree with that. But you mentioned Santu to Harvard Island as well, and I kind of just look at it and go, like you said, I didn't even know he was injured until they mentioned it.
Yeah.
But they're taking a risk by bringing him back on and hoping that he can find his feet. And for him, I really hope he does, because it'd be exciting to see him come back and find his feet straight away. But then I look at Nathan Ball, like you said, I don't know too much about him, but Sam Cooley as well. He's been learning how to play backup, so that might make a difference. But yeah, I think these top 3 here, they're really close, and I've really considered putting Motive at first. I really have.
Yeah.
But I just, like when I was talking about those consistent points finishers and those people that are going to consistently finish, they're consistently cashing. I'm not 100% sure if all of these guys are. They've got a slightly bigger roster than some. The one thing that stands out to me, which might see them do a lot better than the other teams, and it's Brett Spangler. It has to be, and I think he's a name that for the casual viewer you might not have heard about a lot. But Brett Spangler has been about Motive. He is basically Mr. Motive. I think he's been their ball rep since they started on the national tour, and he's been about the block. He knows every player inside out. He knows every ball inside out. And he said that, I think their sort of USP is per se that they've got that a lot of other teams don't is, when you look at a Storm or a Roto-Grip, they've got 70, 80 balls that, you have to look at and go, oh, well, you have to learn these and work out which ones are going to be the best ones for you, where, Motive, you only have about 10 or 15. And he said that, for us, it means we can know Arsenal inside out. We know exactly what we want to be throwing and when, because every player on our roster knows exactly what balls they like and don't like because they've thrown them all. And, I think the fact that Brett says, he's going to be in the center week in, week out, because let's be honest, these team managers, not all of them are going to be at every single tour stop. Right. Because, you look at the likes of, I believe it's Bugsy, I believe is it DV8 or is it Brunswick?
Bugsy is Ebonite, actually.
Ebonite, yeah. So, you look at a lot of these guys and they're very, they're like executives in the company, they're CEOs or they're this and that. These those type of guys have an important job at their company and they can't be at every tour stop. Where Brett Spangler, like he said that he went, oh, maybe you guys should get an executive to do it. And they went, no, you're the man for the job. I think having him in the building every single week, I think it's going to give him an edge that's going to shock a lot of people because, he's not going to be thinking of, oh, I want EJ to do well because of this. I think it's now going to be a lot more team orientated because for the brands, sure, it's great to see EJ winning, but they're also going to think how good would it be to have Motive as the best brand and, to beat all the other brands, So I think that Brett Spangler is definitely something that could push these guys along. And I'm really excited to see how that goes this season.
Yeah. 2 things that I think could make me eat my words. One is that we see a 2023 version of Santu. I think that could really turn the tables. And, who's to say that, that this team doesn't take the whole thing? Like you said, that advantage of having Brett Spangler there week in and week out, knowing these players, fewer bowling balls to choose from. They, the focus is more on the shot making and things like that. There are, and like I said, I considered having Motive number 1, and they may very well make me eat my words, but I think they're number 3. I think they have probably the highest ceiling of any of the brands. But yeah, I'm putting them at number 3, just like you.
Yeah, I have to agree. And now at number 2, I've got, and I've like I said, I've considered putting them at 1. And it's just I've got 900 global. And the reason being, I think having Chris Barnes and Ryan Barnes on the same team, they're literally family. You can't get much better chemistry than that. We had Chris Sloan on our podcast, and I was speaking up the other day, because he's not a million miles away from me, and that guy's hungry. He's really hungry to be better. He's hungry to get further. And yeah, he might not have had the best start on the PBA, in his career, but that guy's hungry. And I think what's gonna be an important thing to look at is how much do you want it? And I look at these guys, and I think these guys really want it. You've got Chase. Chase, I'm not a whole lot sure about him. I can't say I know everything about him because I don't. So he'll be an interesting variable to look at. But Richie Teese as well. Mr. Nice Guy on the PBA Tour. I just think that their team just screams calmness, strategy, and efficiency. That's what it screams to me. And I think Andrew Anderson. He was the 2024 Elite League MVP. And the playoffs MVP, and I think he's consistent, and that's exactly what you need in a guy, someone that's going to be consistent. And he made the move because I'm sure he was at Motive last season, and now he's at Global 900. So that's going to be a really interesting addition. I think it's an exciting addition, And then you've got the veteran depth as well. The likes of Sean Rash and Chris Barnes there to weather the storm again, like I said. And I think they've kind of absolutely aced it and hit the nail on the head by having those older guys or the more experienced guys, as he said there, to weather the storm and help out the younger guys. But even these younger guys, the likes of Ryan, he's been an absolute machine, and I'm sure he's going to be one of the best players in the world at some point because his trajectory is it's constantly up. Mitch Hupe as well, he's been doing really well. Sean Rash as the captain. He's he knows his pressure situations. He's been there. He's done that, and I think they're a really interesting team. But what stands out to me as well is these guys have taken a different approach. Every week they're allowing their fans on social media to pick their five. And now to me, I originally heard this and thought, hang on, this could be a crash course for disaster. But it's unpredictable, and I think that this could either bite them. And they could suffer from it because where you might look at Global 100 and their team manager might go, oh, Chris is going to be really good on this pattern, or Mitch is going to be really good here. Their fans might not say it, and they might go, oh yeah, well we're going to pick Andrew, we're going to pick Richie, we're going to pick Sean Rash, Chris, and Ryan. That's our team. But then you might be overlooking Mitch, who might be really good on that type of pattern, but they're not going to know this. So it's exciting, but I can see it sort of biting them and them regretting doing that. But like I said, it's all about the excitement, and I think for excitement, Global 900 definitely provides that.
Yeah, my number 2 is going to be Roto-Grip. Just a solid team up and down. Anthony Simonson, Justin Knowles, another one who switched brands and went with Roto-Grip coming off of Hammer in the years before. A nice one to draw from. Chris Prather and BJ Moore, both with a ton of success in team events. Stu Williams, just a steady presence both on and off the lanes. DJ Archer, a great player. Kevin McCune, another brand switch there. But interesting what they said about him with the versatility, because I totally agree. We saw that a couple seasons ago when he had his breakout season. And Wes Malott, who always seems to find himself in these top situations in these team events. And you think, is this going to be the last year that Wes Malott is out here? But he just keeps coming back. And, he's got the track record. And he looks like a guy that you'd want rooting for you as you're up, needing a double in the 10th to take a team match. So, that's why I'm going with Roto at number 2.
Okay. And at first?
My champion is 900 Global. You mentioned a lot of great things, that I considered too. The fans picking the lineup, it's 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 a Hail Mary. It's a home run or strikeout type move, but it's exciting. And that everyone out there with an opinion wants to be the one in the driver's seat making these choices. Well, now it's a chance for people to put their money where their mouths are, to actually pick the lineup. So that's exciting, and I like that. I think there's more to Gary Hulsenberg than meets the eye. He is comes off as kind of having a goofy personality on the Morning Bolt on Storm, but he is a very accomplished bowler. He knows what he's doing as far as marketing, and I think he's around these guys enough to know what makes them tick, what makes them succeed, and what to prevent to keep them from failing in this. And I'm really confident in his presence as the team manager. Now, on the lanes, you've got a ton of experience here. You've got a ton of know-how. Sean Rash, I mean, is there anybody better at the mental chess game of bowling than Sean Rash? I challenge you to find somebody else. And if there is somebody else, it's Chris Barnes, who is on the same roster. Chris Sloan, as you said, an underrated talent who can strike for days. Chase Nadeau, I happened to have a chance to watch a little bit at the USBC Masters this year. I was following Trey Hendricksmeyer, of course, because he's from my hometown. And, Chase was crossing with him. And he did a really terrific job on a difficult USBC Masters pattern. And I was impressed with that. Ryan Barnes, made headlines early in the season, making that run at, I believe that was the Players' Championship that opened up the 24 season. Like you said, father and son on the same team. What a great storyline if they can end up winning this thing. Mitch Hoope, just an incredibly powerful delivery that you don't think is that powerful maybe the first few times you see him. But then after a while, you understand the kind of power he possesses, and coming from that Wichita State program, just like Rash, just like Barnes, I think they understand each other a little more than most. Richie Teese, just a fabulous player and versatile, great head on his shoulders. I think he'll perform well. And Andrew Anderson, probably the biggest headline on this team for his switch from Motive to 900 Global. But as you said, got all the accolades the last time around in the Elite League, and I think he can perform again. So, they are my champions, 900 Global.
Yeah. And I have to agree with you. I know I haven't put them in first, but it's a big switch going from Motive to Global 900. There's a lot to learn for Andrew, but he's consistent, and I don't doubt for a second that he's going to struggle with that, because at the end of the day, he wouldn't be at the level he was if he couldn't. Right. And I had the pleasure of speaking to Gary in South Point a couple of years ago at an SYC that I went over, and like you said, he's really knowledgeable. He knows his stuff. He seems very controlled, very calm, and I think he's going to have a good plan and he's going to have a good vision. But so in first, and I mean, it's the safe pick, maybe a boring pick, but it's Storm, and I know what you mean when you say that, when you put the Storm solo down and you say they could go wrong, and I see it. I do see it. But I see it with everyone. I could easily see DV8 finishing first or second. It's one of those things where it's so hard to predict. But when we're talking about an all-round team and strength in depth, because you're going to pick 5 guys each week, Jason Mamonti, Kyle Troop, Jesper Svensson, Chris Fry, Darren Tang, Thomas Larson, Francois Lavoie, Dion Booker, Patrick Dombrowski, Kyle Show. There's so much depth there that I just think if you had to go down each one of these rosters and go pick your 5 and they're going to play each other, I just think you'd pick that team every time. And, Jason Mamonti, sure, he might not have had the best season last season. And when it comes to the PBA League, he might not have had the most success. But, that whole team, it's built to win majors. And the thoughts that's gone into it, for my mind, is that with triple point events being so key, you look at Jason, you look at Kyle, Jesper, everyone on that ranking. I just look at it and go, they're going to win majors. They will. If that team doesn't win at least 1 or 2 majors in next season or this season, I will be shocked. I will really will. And I just, as much as I want to be like, oh, this team will finish first, I just don't see it. And they've got a real championship mentality, and as I said, they are built to win majors. This team, if you're building a team to win, you can't get much closer than this team. They've got Jesper, 2-handed powerhouse. They've got Frankie Lavoie, Chris Vi, who are really versatile and have a lot of international experience. The only concern I might have is Jesper, because we know he likes his Eurofane and that being banned. Sure, it could be, if it was just, the 78 hardness rule. Yeah, sure, Jesper can get around that. The Black Hammer, the Ruby 78, he can get around it, but they've banned Eurofane. But the level that's just come out, what I do know is they put a lot of trust and they got a lot of input from Jesper in the making of this ball. Now, looking at this Elite League, it poses a question to me: have they then depended so much on Jesper to help create this ball, because they look at it and go, this could be the real turning point where we have a ball that can keep Jesper as good as he is.
Yeah.
So I think it's really interesting, and yeah, I've got to go with Storm. But like I said, anyone can finish anywhere, and it's going to be a really, really interesting affair, a really interesting year to see how this is going to pan out. I think that there's going to be a lot of upsets, a lot of surprises, a lot of things that you expected, and I think there's going to be some really, really young players and even experienced players that are going to surprise a lot of people. And they're going to have a point to prove. I mean, even if you look at like the DVA, you've got Cameron Crowe. Obviously he's fresh out of college, so it's his first proper year on tour as a full card pro. And there's a lot of these guys I just look at and think, if these guys have a real standout year, like, this table could be flipped completely.
Yeah.
And you talk about Jason being the captain, and you say, like, where's he been? Where's Carl Sherman been? I mean, I know he's been injured, and where's Darren Tang been? And I get what you're saying, but when we're talking for consistent point finishers, I'm sure these guys are going to be up there. But yeah, it's just so hard to predict, and I'm so excited to see how it pans out this season.
Yeah, and back to the Storm prediction, when you talk about storylines, that's the biggest storyline, is if they win, you have Belmo finally winning a team event, and you have that manager, Tyler Jensen, who was promoted to that position after the passing of Bill Chrisman last year, coming into glory in this and showing the world of bowling that, he is the guy to take a team to the championship when there's so much on the line as far as brand reputation and visibility and that kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot riding on it for Storm and for a lot of the other teams as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing how this pans out.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so that's our predictions. Let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Because yeah, it's going to be a hard one to predict, and I'm sure we'll get back after the season's finished and we'll review these predictions, and we'll either look really, really intelligent, like all this research that I've done here. I mean, like, there's loads of paper, like I've done mounds of research. Okay, so I might look really intelligent, and then Tom Clark might hire me to be some sort of predicted executive at the PBA because I knew it all. Or I'm just going to look stupid and it's going to be completely different. But yeah, this is the excitement of the PBA League. First of all, thank you, Andrew, for coming on. And if you did enjoy this video, guys, like, subscribe to my channel. But most importantly, go and check out Andrew's channel. It'll be in the description. He does podcasts with all sorts. Like you said, he's got EJ coming on, and EJ will have already been on by this time. So yeah, definitely go check out Andrew.
Yeah, thank you.
Awesome. Well, we'll see you guys in the next video.